coaster. Let's start by talking about the picks and bans. You guys had a lot to say about it. It became more and more clear that the Malphite was the key to everything. What else did you think about the draft?
I mean, I really like the Corki first pick because he's got a big package, and so do I. But really, like the hero of the champ select was the Malphite pick into the 3 ADCs, and I think that's like already a game-winning pick right there. And even though like the Baron mispositioned by G2 mispositioning and giving H2K the chance to go Baron, and Ezreal of course stealing it, but I'm still not really convinced if H2K would have won the game even if they get the Baron. Probably yes, but even then, like the Malphite was just an unstoppable force.
We'll take a look at the Baron later. Anything else about the pick and ban phase for you guys?
I disagree with the Quinn blind pick to a certain extent because they should have known that there was the opportunity that Gangplank would be a flex pick and not something that would 100% go top, because if you put Quinn into Gangplank, it's actually a really good matchup because you're able to actually abuse it and at some point split push, so Gangplank has to group and they have to force stuff. But versus Malphite, it's not that way. It's still like kind of, you still have to kind of pressure, especially down mid lane and like at some point hard engage, but Malphite is able to hold his own against Quinn, especially in a comp where AD seems to be so heavily favored. So they should have been more aware of the last pick coming in.
I want to take a look at two phases. We'll look at the Baron later. First, I want to look at the early game because we were looking at JANKOS and Trick a lot. And Shook, you said, yeah, you think Trick is one of the best junglers. Let's take a look at a couple of those early skirmishes and how they played out. Talk us through them, Shook.
Yeah, they're just constantly fighting each other, fighting. At one point, the Trick actually goes over-aggressive, like Selfie can get in here. Like Selfie, like he can get in here before GP because he has Valkyrie and Flash, and he managed to get a good exhaust off on Trick that prevents Trick from killing JANKOS, and just barely gets away. And yeah, they just get an advantage from this, and Selfie is gonna do super well in mid lane.
He is here. Trick dies, but he immediately goes back top, and he's relentless. Did that help set up G2's victory?
Yeah, I think so. Like Trick still did fine. He kept on the aggression, like he kept going for aggressive plays and kills, and yeah, he did what he could do.
Yeah, definitely both of the junglers having something to prove in this matchup, of course, like a lot of hype going into this game and so much aggressive counter jungling, and really fun game to watch. But like Trick really also recognizing like the weakness of the enemy top lane, like really easy dives with the Malphite, and he knew as well if the Malphite gets ahead, it's going to be an easy game.
You talk about the hype matchup between the junglers. Poor JANKOS. Let's take a look at a couple of Barons. The Smite is coming as the second one. Let's look at the first one first, because it was also quite interesting how both teams... Talk us through it, because I don't feel like they don't really know what they're doing.
I feel like in both cases, like especially in this case, you see that it's just an uncontrolled Baron start. They have no plan whatsoever. They probably saw Corki bottom side, so they kind of knew that they had some time to play with. But the Nash start itself, especially against high mobility comps, is really risky, and it can easily force you to fall far behind.
Oh,
and if the Nash is stolen, like in this case, where he like his smite didn't go off, it's extremely hard to basically come back from that. Even if it's just like a goal deficit that you fall into, it's more about the momentum that's coming in, because if you face Smite and Nash, you're gonna have doubts about yourself, you're gonna play differently, and this probably helped Gamers 2 closing out the game faster than they should have.
Yeah, and I mean, the chances of doing by the Ezreal is just unbelievable. I can't even... We're actually going to talk to JANKOS a bit later and see what he thinks of that. But in the end, was there any point that H2K could have come back? They are a top team, so do you think that they should have mentally been able to pop back?
I think they should have never fallen behind in the first place. I think that's the issue with the comp, because they had multiple situations where they could have pulled ahead. If we think about the bottom dive when Lee Sin kicked someone into safety, basically survived 1 HP, which would have had been a bigger lead for them. And then the Drake fight, which they quite frankly just lost really badly, because Corki wasn't there and he was pathing topside. So I just say the comp forced them to play proactive. They did play proactive, but they didn't execute properly. If they did so, they would have had a big lead coming in especially into the Nash. There would have not been a 5-5 situation, but most likely something where they have deep vision coming in and actually can prepare the Nash instead of just starting it in an equal fight.
Yeah, actually, I feel like it was kind of impressive. H2K managed to make the game as close as it was without snowballing with the setup, because it's like it's just so hard to execute the comp versus the G2 comp, because like you actually have to put the Quinn, like always against Gangplank. You can't even put the Quinn against Malphite because you're just gonna get stomped, and then you have to put the Corki against the Malphite, and just like a lot of rotating, and you can never group. It's just very, very tough position to be in.
And they had a Caitlyn, so
yes,
in your minds. That wouldn't have fun.
Yeah.
And Shook, I mean, you were the only one that had the prediction correct. Is G2 the best team in Europe for you?
I think it's Vitality.
You think it's Vitality.
Yeah.
All right, cool. It's time for a quick break as we set up for our next matchup on the slate between Elements and Roccat. Our coverage of the European LCS will be right back.